Hey guys, so a little while ago, Spies, I think it was, in the guild chat said something about making a video about how to counter specific heroes. My first thought was, is there really a way to counter specific heroes or classes? And after thinking about it for a while, I was like, okay, there's a few things. There's not a lot of things, but there's a couple of things I can talk about. So my goal here today is make a really quick video that is not an hour long, talking about the counters to certain types of heroes and even specific heroes themselves. So there's a few heroes that I think aren't counterable per se. So like knights as a class is not particularly counterable. They don't really have any weaknesses. They're not particularly strong either, but you know, they're melee, so you'd counter them the same way you'd counter any melee hero, with like stun or splash damage or whatever. But there are a few classes that, you know, you can counter. So like, for example, Lancers. So Lancers have a high stun chance. So the way to counter them would be to have a stun immune character. Now there are a couple of stun immune characters. There aren't many, but there are a few. Atlantis is one of them. And the other one, I believe, is Angelica. So those are your two anti-stun characters to deal with those Lancers. Obviously Atlantis is going to be the main one, because he's easier to get than Angelica. There's also the whole flying hero. So all flying heroes can be countered very easily by an archer. Each archer guarantees critical hits on flying. So that's always worth keeping in mind. We've also got specific heroes like Goddess. So Goddess has a pushback, and that just pushes the entire enemy team backwards a little bit. And the way you counter them is by having an anti-knockback hero. Mostly, I think almost all barbarians have anti-knockback. So that's an interesting little counter. And then I was thinking, well, what is the easiest to counter class? And it's actually Barbarian, which is very interesting, because Barbarians are like the staple tanky boys, and they are incredibly easy to counter. So first of all, they're super weak to stun. You can just permanently stun them, and there's nothing you can really do. You could add some resist runes, I guess. So any kind of stun, freeze, burn and poison are also really good against them, because poison is health damage, doesn't care about the defense. Same with burn, I believe. So either of those counter tanky barbarians. You've also got things like frogs, the Frogify that will counter a barbarian. Cirque, to an extent, can counter a barbarian. Yeah, a lot of things counter barbarians, and then there's gunners as well. Gunners who have their death ignoring abilities can counter barbarians. So despite barbarians being really good, they're actually like pretty easy to deal with if you consider. And I think that just is a big testimony to how ridiculous these just raw stats are from barbarians. So there's also another class that is pretty easily be countered in a similar way. So brawlers have this kind of passive that as they continually hit, then they deal more damage, and it even tells you how to counter it in here. So if you interrupt them with a stun or a freeze or a knockback, then you'll reset their combo and they'll deal less damage. Um, so those are pretty easily counterable as well. Obviously the elements are countered by the other elements, but that's pretty obvious. I won't go into that. Magicians, I don't think magicians are counterable as a whole. They're counterable in a way that they're ranged, and you can counter them as you do any ranged hero by kind of a Thor or a Kasumi breaking through those front lines and attacking them down quickly. But other than that, as the magicians as a whole, I don't feel like there's any strict counter. Who else have we got? So, what about something like... No, so rogues are very interesting, because a lot of rogues are high evade. And if you equip for evade as well, so this is only 10%. But if you put runes on there, you can get a pretty high dodge rate. I think my Pinky has runes to dodge. So yeah, Pinky will dodge 42% of every attack, which is pretty damn good. I think Pinky has the highest base dodge chance at 30. But there's not currently anything that I know of that does a guaranteed hit. Poison, I guess. Poison and burn might be the exceptions. So poison and burn abilities might ignore the dodge chance. That's something to keep in mind. Alright, so about these ranged heroes that sit at the back, how do we counter them? Well, there's actually a couple of answers now. There weren't so many before, but we've got Namida. So Namida is a gunner whose special ability 2 will target the three furthest back enemies. There are some slight aiming issues. If there's a flyer in the way, it can sometimes block all three of the shots. So Namida is an option. We've also just been given Hookie, I mean, who's a gunner that can pull an enemy and bring him closer. So they're seeming to start to add in counters to the back raid line. We've obviously got the Kasumi and Thor that I've already mentioned. There's also, like, if you get a good splash gunner with high AoE, you could sometimes hit the back line on their second skill, because that goes further than their first and has a bigger AoE. There's also some not quite obvious element counters. So there's Spark, so if you're coming across some big fire heroes, just Spark and reduce all their attack by a lot. And likewise, I believe Thorn for grass. There we go. I don't know if there's a water one. I don't think there is, but I'm just going to check real quick. Namida? Namida. There we go. Namida is also the water one. So that's something to think about. Anyone else? Nope. We don't have them for dark and light. But what else? How else can we counter heroes? Talked about barbarians being taken down by poison. Healers, there's not really a way to counter healers. Vlad you can kind of counter by having tanky people up the front because it's damage based. His heal is damage based. He's also flying, so you can archer him down. Merlinus you just have to get to him, and that's quite tricky. But that's what makes him such a good hero. I think, to be honest, that's pretty much it. I can't think of many other heroes or that are super counterable. If you have like, if you're going against fast attackers like a Monkey King, possibly Groovine for a big slowdown. There are other options as well to reduce attack speed. Yeah, I think there's also like anti-freeze heroes. I think Furiosa probably is the only one with anti-freeze and anti-burn. So if they're going for a full freeze team, you just bring in a Furiosa and then they're sad. Or if they're going for a full burn team, but I don't think a full burn team is a thing. I think a full freeze team is somewhat viable, and a full poison team is also somewhat viable. But I haven't heard of a full burn team. Burn is a bit iffy, I think. I'm just thinking if there's anything else. Oh, there is technically a counter to Merlinus, and that's AoE damage, because Merlinus's heal is one target, and it's kind of slow to get out. So if you've got AoE damage, then it makes it harder for him to keep everyone alive. Yeah, I think that's it. There's also Ornok. Ornok has a worthy mention because he can dispel any positive effects, which is quite interesting. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but it's there. What else? Who else is a worthy mention? Oh, for tanky people, you've obviously got Dark Knight with the debuff defense. You've got Cage as well to half their HP. There we go. Who else is a worthy hero to break through some defenses? Almost anyone can be countered with frogs and Cirque. That's what makes them really good. It's just more poison, isn't it? I feel like there's someone I'm missing. Someone I can talk about. Who is it? Who is it? It's not Blackbeard, it's Snowman. So Snowman has the Death Down second skill for 60 seconds, which is a substantial amount of time. He's also got a pretty decent attack speed, so it's not unlikely that if you increase his attack speed a little bit more that you'll get a permanent uptime on that. And likewise, we have our new hero, right? Sir Shu. Who not only has anti-stun, which I did not realize until now, so there's another anti-stun hero, but she also has the attack down. So you stun them for 2 seconds, and then there's 4 seconds of attack down. That's pretty good. And the attack down increases over levels. So what is my current level? Is she 4? 4. So we've got 3 more to go. So it's plus 5, 22, 27, 32. 32% attack down? That seems pretty good. Her attack per second is pretty bad though. So yeah, so that's I think the best I can really come up with. There's not it's not like there's a hero that counters a hero in this game. It's like there's tools to counter things, but in 10-on-10 battles, I think those individual counters aren't super massive. But they are valid when there's one opponent who's, you know, like a 7/7 and the rest are 5/5s. Then yeah, you probably want to focus some of your slots on countering that 7/7. Yeah, ranged magicians are actually particularly hard to counter, especially like flying ones like the common, because they sit quite far back, they're up high, and even like Kasumi and 4 do not reach them, so you do have to use a Namida or a I hope Hooky. Hooky will probably draw him in as well. So yeah, hopefully that's useful. It's a short 15-ish minute video. If you have any opinions, or if you think I've missed something, then let me know. Thanks for watching, guys.